started. Okay, this is People of the State of Michigan versus Nelson Humes, docket number. This is People of the State of Michigan versus Nelson Humes, docket number. Sorry, I didn't have it plugged in. Docket number 20-446FH. And I'm told this is going to be a no contest plea to count 7. Is that correct?
And also a plea to 4 and 5.
4 and 7?
4, 5, and 7.
Okay.
Yes, the no contest is only to count 7 due to the length of time it's been and memory issues.
Oh, okay.
And intoxication at the time, I believe, Your Honor.
So it's a guilty plea to 4 and 5 and no contest to 7?
Yes, Your Honor. 7 involves things that were said, 4 and 5 were actions, so it's easier to remember the actions, I believe.
Okay. No, it's easier to just do it all one way or all the other, but. Mr. Humes, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Who's Tammy Liston?
He's the administrator for the Public Defender's Office.
The who?
She works at the Public Defender's Office.
Oh, she's calling in to my waiting room?
I don't know.
Okay. Mr. Humes, you have the right to be represented by an attorney, and you are represented by Mr. Abbott. And Mr. Abbott, will you waive reading of counts 1, 2, 3, and 6?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Pfeiffer, would you read counts 4, 5, and 7, please?
Yes, Your Honor. In the name of the people of the state of Michigan, the prosecuting attorney for this county appears for the court and informs the court that on 7/5 of 2020 at 3216 Turner Street, Apartment B, the defendant for count 4 did make an assault or an assault and battery upon Chiquito Rembert, an individual with whom he had a dating relationship, contrary to MCL 750.812. This is a misdemeanor with a maximum punishment of up to 93 days and or $500. A consecutive sentence may be imposed under MCL 750.506A if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. For count 5, the defendant did make an assault or an assault and battery upon the following person, Willie Austin, contrary to MCL 750.811. This is a misdemeanor, maximum punishment up to 93 days and or $500. A consecutive sentence may be imposed under MCL 750.506A if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. And for count 7, the defendant did retaliate, attempt to retaliate, or threaten to retaliate against another person for having reported or attempting to report a crime committed or attempted by another person by threatening to kill or injure a person, contrary to MCL 750.483A2B. This is a felony with a maximum punishment up to 10 years and or $20,000, and a consecutive sentence may be imposed for any other conviction. The court shall order law enforcement to collect a DNA identification profiling sampling upon sentencing or disposition if not taken at arrest, and this is against the peace and dignity of the state of Michigan.
Mr. Humes, you're being charged here with domestic assault and battery. That's a misdemeanor punishable by up to 93 days in jail. A non-domestic assault and battery, which is also a misdemeanor punishable by up to 93 days in jail. And retaliation for a crime report. That is a felony punishable by up to 10 years in prison. Also, if you were on parole at the time of the felony, you would be subject to a mandatory consecutive sentence. Have you had enough time to talk about these charges with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand the charges against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any questions about what we're doing?
Is this the plea court? Plea court? No, I don't have questions. No. Not about what I'm getting charged with. No.
Okay. And I'm told that you're pleading guilty to the 2 misdemeanor counts and no contest to the felony. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Humes, if your plea of guilty is accepted or no contest, it means you won't have a trial of any kind and you'll be giving up the rights that go along with the trial. That means you'll give up the right to a trial by jury, or if you didn't want trial by jury, trial by judge. You'll give up your right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty and to require the prosecutor to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You'll give up your right to have the witnesses against you appear at the trial and to be able to cross-examine them, as well as your right to have this court order any witnesses that you might have to appear at the trial. You'll give up your right to remain silent at the trial and not to have your silence used against you, or if you wanted to testify at the trial. There's also some things different about appeals when you plead guilty or no contest, and that is that, first of all, you don't get an automatic right to have the next higher court look at your case. Instead, you have to ask them to look at it, and they would have to agree. And the second thing that's different is that when you plead guilty or no contest, you don't, there are many issues that you simply cannot appeal, which is different from people who go to trial. If they get convicted, they can appeal pretty much everything. Do you understand those rights?
Yes, ma'am.
Also, if I accept your plea, it means you cannot come back later on and try to say that it really wasn't your own, or that you can't come back later on and say the plea was the result of some promise or threat that no one told me about today. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Also, you will not be able to come back later on and try to say that it just wasn't your own choice to plead guilty or no contest today. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a plea agreement, Mr. Pfeiffer?
Apologies, I was muted. There is, Your Honor. The plea agreement is that the defendant pleads to counts 4, 5, and 7, with the understanding 7 is no contest, and there would be a Killebrew agreement to the straddle cell of 10 to 23. And upon that, the people agree to dismiss counts 1, 2, 3, and 6.
And Mr. Abbott, is that a full and complete statement?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Mr. Humes, is that your understanding of the agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you agree with it?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, they've made what's called a Killebrew agreement, and that is that your sentence would be in the 10 to 23 month range, which is called a straddle cell. That means that I could give you anything from 0 to 12 months in jail, or an MDOC sentence, but the low end of it would be no more than 23 months. If for some reason I decided not to go along with that, in other words, if for some reason I thought you should have more time than either of those options, I would tell you before I sentenced you, and I'd give you a chance if you wanted to take back this plea and start over. Got all that?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone promised you anything else that hasn't been said here right now in order to get you to plead guilty or no contest?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone used any threats to get you to do it?
No, ma'am.
Is it your own choice to plead guilty and no contest?
Yes, ma'am.
And on the counts you're pleading guilty to, the 2 misdemeanors, are you acknowledging that you're pleading guilty because you are in fact guilty of those?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's start with on or about July 5th of 2020. And tell me about Shankita. What happened? What did you do to Shankita?
Well, after we was arguing in the parking lot, having some drinks, whatever. Well, it's gonna get into what happened to Justin too. But when me and her went in the house, basically, and I pushed her, she pushed me and threw some tea on me.
Okay, you pushed her?
Yes, ma'am.
On purpose?
Out of anger, no, because she pushed me first, but I pushed her back. It's not a reason or excuse, but I pushed her.
Did you push her on purpose? In other words, you didn't just accidentally bump into her?
No, I did it on purpose, man. I'm not gonna lie.
All right. Was she a girlfriend type person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Girl, ex. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what happened with Willie Austin? Did he get involved in it?
Well, we was arguing outside, whatever, me and Shaquita after we were drinking before we went in the house. And he got in my business, whatever. He came over and swung with me. I swung back, and I guess they called the police. So then Shaquita told me to come to the house and shit. On my fault.
So you took a swing with your fist at Willie Austin, is that right?
Yes. That's before he hit me first though, but I hit him back, so I'm.
Yeah. That's not self-defense, that's just retaliation. So, and this all happened on Turner Street in Lansing, Ingham County, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then for count 7, I've been provided an incident report from the Lansing Police Department that I have reviewed, and I find that all of these events occurred on or about July 5 of 2020. And also at the, in the area of the Turner Street apartment in Lansing, Ingham County. And on that date, Shakita, I'm sorry, I think it's typed wrong on the information, but in the police report, it's Shakita. She suffered a significant beating from Mr. Humes. And following the significant beating where she was injured and dazed, she seemed to be prepared to call the police. Mr. Humes told her not to say anything to the police or he would kill her. And he also told her that he would be bonding out and he would come back. The result of that was that she felt terrified and displayed terrified behavior to the police when they came and took the report. And therefore I find that a crime had been committed by Mr. Humes and that another person, the victim of the crime, was going to report it or trying to report it. And he made a threat to kill her or injure her if she did so. And that constitutes the crime stated in count 7. Has the court complied with MCR 6.302, Mr. Pfeiffer?
I believe it has, Your Honor.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you aware of any promises, threats, or inducements other than those already placed on the record, Mr. Pfeiffer?
I am not, Your Honor.
Mr. Abbott?
No. None.
The court finds the plea is understandingly and voluntarily made without undue influence, threats, or promises of leniency. It is an accurate plea supported by the testimony on counts 4 and 5 and supported by the findings of the court on count 7. The plea is accepted. A conviction will enter on count 7 and of course on 4 and 5 as well, to which he pled guilty. And sentencing date is Monday, August 16th at 3:15, if that works for you, Mr. Abbott.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And then Mr. Humes, we'll have your sentencing on Monday, August 16th at 3:15. The probation department is going to set up an interview with you from the jail in order to get some information from you, and that's very important because that's what they will put in the report that I'll use for sentencing. Do you have any questions before we go?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay, you're all set then. You can tell them at the jail you're done with your hearing.
All right.